Right, let's take you now to Cape Town. The city has suspended services to several areas after some of its staff were attacked. The areas include Browns Farm, Lower Crossroads, Samora Machel and Philippi. Newzroom Afrika's Nasiphi Summit joins us live for more. Nasiphi, good to speak to you this afternoon. Challenging times for some of those authorities. Walk us through what's led to the suspension of services to some of these areas.
Well, as you put it, safety concerns highlighted by the city of Cape Town following security guards escorting city staff into various communities coming under attack to a point where one is currently in hospital in a very critical condition. And the city says that they've been seeing extortion threats or intimidation of their staff throughout the city in various areas. And at this present moment, 4 communities have been flagged as red zones that has seen the city withdrawing their services. And they are saying that this is until further notice. We all know that the issue of extortion rackets is not unique to the city of Cape Town, but it's been an issue throughout the country. And depending where you are in the city, one might say that it's extortion rackets. And depending where you are, others could call it protection fee, where a group or a gang of criminals demanding a protection fee or a certain amount from business owner, whether large retailers, small retailers, hawkers on the side of the road, and even people that own cars. This is the extent of extortion rackets that we've been seeing playing out in various communities, and it seems like the city of Cape Town is not immune to that. But to talk to us further as to the decision taken by the city of Cape Town, I'm joined by Alderman Grant Twig, who is the maker member for urban solid management, or waste management rather. You have taken this decision by the city of Cape Town to suspend these services in 4 communities: Browns Farm, Lower Crossroad, Philippi and Marcus Garvey, following this incident. Do we know the hotspot areas in the city of Cape Town?
Well, yes, we do. The hotspot actually moves from time to time. It depends how these guys that does the extortion move around. But the areas that you've identified, those are part of the hotspots. We've got Wallisdene Bloekombos, we've got parts of Khayelitsha as well, and then we've got parts of Langa as well. But they move around, so the hotspot changes from time to time.
This incident that happened this past week that saw 3 security guards escorting city staff in to provide services to these communities. In the statement, you said that you had received quite a number of extortion threats and intimidations weeks building up to this incident. How do these threats look like, or how do they come to the city of Cape Town's attention?
Well, just to say, it's 4 security guards. 2 has been they're out of hospital, and 2 is still in hospital. So these threats comes to our staff as they do their daily work in the different areas, and they get asked for the monies that these extortioners request in various ways. And then our staff members report that to management. And obviously management then reports it to safety, and then it takes that process, and hoping that our law enforcement and SAPs can actually deal with that. It's always very difficult because the staff don't know who the people are that speaks to them and when they get these warnings.
You were saying that it's not just city staff, but also contractors that is ultimately, it's a ripple effect with the community at the receiving end of this. Talk to us about the contractors that pull out of these communities and how you then fill the gap there.
Well, some of the contractors, as we speak, has withdrawn from some of the areas. They've been contracted to work in those areas, and with the approach of the extortionists, and the threat to their lives and their staff, they've withdrawn from some of those areas. And what the city has now done is we've identified quite a few of those areas, and we're putting in EPWP as a stopgap for that areas to have those areas cleaned. And you know, the fortunate part that we have is those EPWP is members of that community. So I think it's a bit difficult for the extortioners to actually speak to those EPWPs because they would be known. They would definitely be known to those EPWPs if they do approach them.
Are you not scared of perhaps backlash when you're withdrawing these services, because you are indicating that until further notice, you're not giving a time frame as to when you'll resume services? Are you not scared perhaps of backlash? Are you concerned about that?
If you say backlash from the community, obviously the community will be complaining because the pile-up will be happening, and people will be dumping. So we're asking our communities just to be considerate and understand it's not the city withdrawing because we want to withdraw from the areas. The people that is actually working in that communities is human beings. They also have lives, and they're being traumatized through these shootings. And we can't just allow the normal working day to happen when our staff is is feeling the threat.
So if you're not willing to pay, I mean, the city has been very clear on that they will not be paying extortionists. Are you not then scared when you do lift the suspension and your staff goes back into these communities that these threats are going to intensify even further?
We are hoping that the communities can also intensify their support by identifying these extortionists, because if all of us need to work together. SAPS needs to actually go and arrest these people if we know who they are, but our communities also need to assist us. And we know it's very difficult, but it's things that we need to do. Our staff is very traumatized when these things happen.
And just quickly for us, how much is the Directorate spending on private security?
We're spending millions of rands over and above our normal budget for cleansing, over and above our budget that we've allocated extra for the dumping and the cleaning of our areas. So it's a lot of money. And I know that with my colleague Alderman Smith, we're looking at ways of trying to get our internal law enforcement up so that we can actually render the service internally as well.
Grant Twig there, Mako member in the city of Cape Town, adapting to a new normal, and that new normal being extortion rackets protection fee that has now seen the city of Cape Town having to suspend their services in 4 communities. However, we do know that a number of communities in the city of Cape Town, such as Langa, Kraaifontein, and now Philippi Nyanga, being flagged as hotspot areas where city staff usually return with these messages that they have not only been intimidated, but they are demanding for city management to pay a certain amount. At times, contractors are also asked to pay a certain percentage of the contract or the amount that they received with the contract. But just recently also in Kraaifontein, a letter made the rounds on social media where city staff or personnel were given this note to take back to management, demanding that a payment be made. However, in this unfortunate incident is that people did indeed, get injured following the series of threats that city staff had received in those communities. The question now is it really feasible to have city personnel from various directorates to be escorted into various communities when they are, providing these services? And earlier on, the CPF of Nyanga calling on the city to say that, we are open to engage with you and try and see what we can do to assist you in resolving this particular matter. Also highlighting that just last year, the health sector, or rather the clinics in the community of Browns Farm, were also at the receiving end of extortion rackets. However, they did manage to, in some sort of way, resolve that. So the city, or rather the CPF, calling for an integrated approach, and hopefully then we'll be able to see these services being provided in these communities that needed the most.